Let's bring my friend Tone in for the segment. Get his Tone. Do you think they're overusing DeAndre Swift?
No, I don't think so. I understand what he's on pace for, but he's not going to have that many carries. When it's all said and done, I really don't believe that. Look, at the end of the day, they had this guy on the rental. He's not going to be here beyond this year. The way I see it, use him. You know what I mean? And he makes this offense that much more dynamic. We saw what this offense looked like against the Rams. I firmly believe when you have Dallas Goedert going, when you have guys like DeAndre Swift going, it makes the team that much more harder to defend. So I'm not here trying to put DeAndre Swift on a pitch count. I'm not worried about that. And besides, let's be totally honest. Those kind of conversations are reserved from Monday through Saturday. Once the game starts, I could give a damn how many carries he has as long as he's moving forward.
How about this? Would you be interested in bringing a guy like a Leonard Fournette in to run the ball in the red zone and have maybe a better pass blocking running back there? Because obviously there's an issue with Penny and the trust level with the coaches. He probably wouldn't be very expensive. He's been sitting on the pine right now. He's got playoff experience. He's not exceptionally old, and he's kind of a little bit of a dual threat guy himself. He caught 77 passes before, Tone, when he was in Jacksonville.
Right.
He's won a Super Bowl. Would that be something that you might want to at least kick the tires on and look at?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been of the mindset of we need to replicate a similar running back core like the one we had during our Super Bowl year. Let's really think about the way it looked in 2017. You had LeGarrette Blount, the power back. Then you had Jay Ajayi, who was the elusive back, the one cut back. And then you had Corey Clement, who was the pass catching back. You pretty much had a three-headed monster back there, guys pretty much doing different duties. And I pretty much feel like they need to replicate something like that. I thought that's why they brought in a guy like Rashad Penny, but clearly he hasn't been able to get on the field, and they don't trust him in pass protection. So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in Leonard Fournette. I feel like Leonard Fournette actually doesn't get enough respect. I feel like he's been a productive running back throughout his entire career. Battled injury here and there, but for the most part, I feel like Leonard Fournette has always been a running back that you can, for the most part, rely on. So I would not be opposed to the Eagles reaching out to Leonard Fournette to have him come in and be that, that rotational piece behind Swift, especially in the red zone. That'll take some pressure off Jalen Hurts.
The only thing that Bruce Arians told me in a negative light of playoff Lenny is the fact that you got to keep an eye on his weight. Just got to keep an eye on his weight. However, he's a great teammate, works hard, doesn't take plays off. It's not anything like that, but he's kind of a little bit like Bettis in a way where,
his weight can get away
drive-throughs. You know what I mean?
His weight can get away from him a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's a guy like he'll go to like McDonald's. He's not a guy who's going to sit down like at LeBron's train table. You know what I mean? Where there's like these prepared meals. This guy's a Happy Meal guy.
Oh
so
man,
that'd be the only thing.
That kind of reminds me of the Lane Johnson thing, right? But it's the opposite. Lane Johnson has to actually fight to keep weight on because he's naturally a smaller guy. Playoff Lenny, he has to fight to keep the weight off.
Dude, just stay away from the Happy Meals, man. We'll be good. Don't worry. I'll get you the prize if you want. We'll mail it to the NovaCare Center. Did you agree with me with what I said with Goedert? Why did it look like when Goedert was involved in the game that I just went like this? Holy shit, this thing looks like 2022 now. And it was the first time that they got him involved. But, Tone, it was the first time it looked like last year. To me, establishing him looks like it establishes Jalen in the passing game. And it just makes you have to – I get the guy who was at the casualty of this, and that was Devontae. But the offense looked better, which means Devontae's going to get his like he did later in the season last year. I mean, am I right when I say that?
I would actually have to agree with you. Here's my thing, right, about Devontae Smith really quickly before I jump on the Dallas Goedert part of it. Dallas Goedert didn't take Devontae Smith's targets. DeAndre Swift took Devontae Smith's targets. So, the narrative that, if you feed Dallas Goedert or if you focus on Dallas Goedert and AJ Brown, Devontae Smith's going to be a casualty. Let's keep it in perspective. All those guys got their targets just fine last year. So I don't understand why it should be a problem this year. The only difference is The Eagles weren't throwing the ball to the running backs last year. That's why Goddard was able to get his numbers, Smith was able to get his, and AJ was able to get his. So when you approach it from that side of it, the Eagles are trying to expand what their offense does. They want to get running backs involved. They want to do all of that, right? But as far as Dallas Goedert goes, I'm a firm believer that if Dallas Goedert is going, the Eagles' offense is literally unstoppable. We saw literally what happens when Dallas Goedert touches the rock. He is aiming for the end zone every single time. 50-yard catch, 20-yard catch, 15-yard catch. He was an unstoppable force on Sunday. And you saw what it did, or you saw what it did for AJ Brown, right? It opened up the entire middle of the field for him. It opened up because what's going to happen is a guy like Dallas Goedert, because he's closer to the middle of the field, you're going to have to kind of bring those guys in more. You're going to have to kind of focus on them. And let's be totally honest about this. Dallas Goedert is the kind of guy where as though, well, look at it like this. He's too elusive. He's too fast for tight. He's too fast for linebackers. He's too big and too strong for DBs. He is literally an unstoppable weapon. We saw with our own eyes. Get Dallas Goedert the ball, everything else will work. We saw that literally. You had 3 players with over 100 yards from scrimmage in Sunday's game. DeAndre Swift had 100 yards. AJ Brown had over 100 yards. Dallas Goedert had over 100 yards. It's possible to get these guys to rock. Play calling just has to follow suit.
The Jets game now, really good defense, really good play calling head coach. Zach Wilson, I don't know. I mean, is he the worst quarterback that you would have played so far this year? Yes.
Man. Oh man, I mean, that's a good question. The worst quarterback we've played.
He's going to be the worst they played so far here. So,
man,
which means this: do you bring pressure on him?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you sit back, or do you wait for him to make the casualty mistake? If you're Sean Desai, for me, if I'm defending this guy, Tone, I'm not bringing pressure right away. I may bring some disguise pressures on him and some blitzes on him. But that's not Matthew Stafford back there. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm just going to wait for him to make mistakes because he's going to make them.
Yeah, I look at it like this, right? The New York Jets are going to be without their starting right guard in Elijah Vera Tucker. He's out for the season. He's on IR. He's done.
I think that front four can get home then.
On top of that, they have the right tackle, Mekhi Becton, who in my opinion has been a complete disappointment. And on top of that, he can't seem to stay healthy. The last game they played, he was in and out of the game because he just couldn't stay on the field. So when you look at it from that perspective, the Jets had offensive line issues before these guys even got hurt, right? They were already into question. So when you look at it from that perspective, I look at this as a game where, look, you shouldn't even have to blitz this game, honestly.
No.
You really shouldn't. Your
front Look at Dalvin Cook's numbers. He can't get going because their line's so bad.
He can't. The fact that Breece Hall is able to do anything is a shocker at that. But again, you have an offensive line. This is a game where your defensive line should have at minimum 5 sacks. I believe this is a game where Jalen Carter is going to abuse whoever's in front of him. Hassan Reddick should have 2 sacks. Like this should be one of those games where you shouldn't have to blitz at all because your front four is just dominating. Zach Wilson's not even going to be able to complete a pass over 10 yards because the defensive line is coming at him that fast.
What are the 49ers doing better than the Eagles right now?
Executing.
Consistently
executing. It's really that simple. You brought up something earlier, right? How are you top 5 in scoring, but you suck in the red zone? So when you think about it from that perspective, the Eagles somehow, some way, while being trash in the red zone, they're still scoring. Imagine if they figure it out. So I think that's the stark difference between the 49ers and the Eagles right now. It's not talent, because you can argue who has more talent.
I think they're more talented 49ers on defense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Offensively though, you pick your poison, right? So some people like cookies and cream ice cream, some people like chocolate, so pick your poison with that. But when it comes to the 49ers, the stark difference that I see, it's not talent. It's strictly execution. Strictly. If the Eagles executed consistently, especially in the red zone, but if they executed consistently the way the 49ers do, I think it'd be pretty hard to say who's the best team. because I understand they're more talented on defense. There's no big debate about that, especially with the linebackers. Like
But
that
this
guy,
thing
Fred
could
Warner's
look
a freak.
completely different in January for Philly.
Absolutely,
Okay?
absolutely.
It could look completely different.
Right. Because look, at the end of the day, right, you have a new offensive coordinator. There's still a feeling out process with this thing. You have to figure, we saw what it could potentially look like when things are working, right? With Dallas Goedert, all those guys. We saw what it potentially could look like. I think they have another gear. I think they have another level that they can access.
I said something about the Cowboys earlier, and it drove me crazy because I see why you guys hate that team.
Hate them with a passion.
And I see why, because of the rhetoric. The owner's on twice a week. You got Micah Parsons going, I think we're just as good as the 49ers. This is in the locker room today. After they got killed, they're in a land of the Tone. I said it to start the program off. The Eagles don't have a 2-game lead on Dallas. They have a 10-year lead on Dallas. The way they do business, the way they draft. I gave you the example of how Howie in 2 years has gone from $30 million in defensive tackles down to rookie contracts and 10 years of youth in their 2 DTs, and you're first in the rush defensive category. The Dallas Cowboys draft Mozzie Smith, and they're constantly getting rid of players because they can't afford them on their cap. And to me, they're just constantly moving us. The Cowboys look to me like they're a worse team than a year ago. I mean, They don't look bad. You're getting beat by Arizona. I don't think last year's team would have got beat by Arizona. This team got killed by Arizona.
Yeah. They got punched in the face. When it comes to the Cowboys, I want to read something to you real quick. Michael Parsons has this podcast that he does every week, and he spoke about that 42-10 loss, and George Kittle had a shirt under his jersey that said, F Dallas, right? And Micah spoke on it and said, well, laugh now, cry later. We got something for that. If we see him again, we got something for that, right? So Debo said 42-10. I don't think you want to see us again. It might be a little bit worse. So my point is, right, this is my problem with the Dallas Cowboys and everything that they are. This is my problem with the air that they breathe. This is my problem with the pot they piss on. This is the problem with the plate they eat off of. I hate everything about them. You guys, they got guys over there talking crazy, and they got their face smashed in. That wouldn't be happening in Philly. The fan base wouldn't even allow it.
You had Jason Kelce bitching. You're 5-0 because you're 2 for 6 in the red zone, because he's knowing what's coming up with all these good quarterbacks and such. And they're complaining. The players in Dallas are complaining. And get this, the players in Dallas are cheering for their own team after getting killed.
That's why they're a joke. They are a joke because they have no identity. CeeDee Lamb was asked about the offensive identity. He said, what identity? I don't, it took one game. It took one loss like that for them to turn on each other. They started feasting on each other. The Cowboys are a joke. The fan base is a joke. Everything that they believe in is a joke. The fact that they're still considered to be America's team is a joke. They will always, in my opinion, be a blight on the NFL because they think they're better than what they really are. And on top of that, they get all this attention, all this notoriety when they have not produced in over 25 years. I will never understand the math, but I'll tell you this, though. Like you said earlier, the Philadelphia Eagles, they know how to handle business. They know how to establish culture. They know how to hold people accountable. In Dallas, you know what happens? Jared just says, you know what? Don't worry about it, man. I'm going to make sure your check clears because I like you. I like you and I love you. Okay.
They're, by the way, I think the Chargers are beating them.
I think the Chargers beat them too. I think the Chargers catches a wounded animal. I really think that's what's going to happen.
They're still talking about the ass kicking today. You're supposed to move on from that to your next opponent because win or lose, hey, dude, these games come up on you like this. I just look at these guys and I'm like, man, the Lions are better, right?
Absolutely. Look, I think the Lions can beat them. And look, here's another thing about the Dallas Cowboys that wasn't getting talked about enough. Earlier in the season, that defense was putting up points, not that offense. That defense was forcing turnovers. That defense was giving them field position. That defense was, pick sixes and fumble recoveries for touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. That defense was scoring. Now, you saw what happened when they actually needed the offense to do something. Look what happened. Dak Prescott turned into a pumpkin. CeeDee Lamb turned into, they put CeeDee Lamb on a platter. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were just non-existent.
By the way, CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion,
overrated dude.
I think he is a soft one.
He's soft.
I mean, like if you have the list of what you consider ones, he's like the last guy on the list.
He's soft. Look, man,
dude, Devontae Smith's better.
I firmly believe that. I believe Devontae Smith is a better player, and he's a more willing blocker in the run game. He's just a more physical player, despite his slight build.
If Devontae Smith was in Dallas right now, he might be leading the NFL in yardage. Okay, I'm just saying, because I see CeeDee Lamb, and I think he's got alligator arms sometimes. I've never seen that with Smith. You get that guy to want to extend himself because he knows he's going to take a hit.
Yep.
I saw you can see that. I saw that guy in that Zay Flowers when he was playing because he knew he was going to get hit coming across the middle with the Steeler guys. Guy went up there with some alligator arms like that. And you got to extend in that sport, son.
They're Cowboys protecting you today. The Cowboys can't say nothing to me. They can't, the fan. They can't say nothing about nothing right now. They need to sit back and be quiet and pray for rain.
One more thing on the Cowboys here. Will Dak Prescott be the starting quarterback by the season's end, or will Trey Lance?
No, Dak's going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off. Now next year, that's it.
How about if they're 3-3? How about this? You're 3-3. Your chances of making it to the title for the NFC East is over. The Eagles are not surrendering a 3-game lead in the East. That thing is over. You're now fighting for a playoff spot potentially. If you're 3-3, take a look at their schedule, Tone. Bring your schedule up. I'm going to show you something here. They dropped that game to the Chargers, and they go 3-3. Okay? They got the Eagles coming up in 2 weeks too.
Yep.
Okay, so give me the next 4 games.
Okay, so they got the Chargers. They got the Rams.
The Rams can beat them.
I think the Rams can catch them, but we'll see. But so it's Chargers, Rams, then it's Eagles, then it's Giants, Panthers, Commanders. They can probably get back on track right there. But other than that, man, then they got Seahawks. This is where the rubber meets the road right here, and this is where I think their season is going to be lost. They have Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Commanders. Do they make
the playoffs?
Man, I think they make the playoffs.
Do you think the Charger game determines that?
Oh, that's a good question. I would have to think about that a little bit more. The Chargers game, because 3-3.
You're 3-3, then you've got Rams and Eagles.
Right. And then you got Giants, Panthers, Commanders.
Giants, Panthers, Commanders, you can get back on track, but then you roll into that Seattle game.
Yep, and then you got Eagles right after that again. Then you got Bills, Dolphins, Lions. That's a tough stretch.
Dude, that's
a tough stretch.
My pick looks like shit now for the other side when it comes to the Super Bowl here. They could be 9-8.
They're looking like they're looking like a 9-win team, maybe a 10-win team, if that. Like seriously, like they're looking like a 9-10-win team at this rate. You know what I mean? But look, they have talent, man. Look, I'm not going to pretend like they're not a talented team.
Hey, Tone,
their problem is culture and mental and showing up when it matters most. They don't do well in these situations.
Stop saying that to me, man. Talent doesn't get killed like that.
That's true. No, you're right. No, you know what? You're right.
Watch this. You know what talent is?
That was a bloodbath.
You know what talent is? Eagles getting beat by a couple points in the Super Bowl. Eagles getting beat by 4 points. Eagles getting beat by a score, not by 32 points.
That was a bloodbath, Sills. Like that game should have not went like that.
Yeah, but the game that will always stick with me is the Cardinal game.
It's more so the Cardinals game, right? Yeah, it's they again, we talked about this. If they would have lost 27-24, 30-23, okay, all right. They lost 42-10. That showed lack of preparation.
And I thought they gave up. I thought they let up on the gas pedal.
Yeah, honestly, I was watching that game from beginning to end. They benched Purdy and put in Sam Darnold. That's how bad it got. And then Dak Prescott followed that up because they benched Fred Warner too. They said, Fred Warner, you're good. You're balling. You can sit you down. They put a backup linebacker in. Next thing you know, Dak Prescott throws an interception to the backup linebacker.
Dude,
Come
you
on,
know
man.
what?
This can't be real life.
That's like the Eagles putting Ian Book in.
Dude, like they could have really ran a score up. Like that score could have easily been 55-10.
I would have done it too.
I would have did it.
I
would have did it. I would have kept Purdy in, and I would have just.
That's one team, Tone. You run the score up on.
Yeah, it's certain teams that you just have to do it to, and they would have been the one. You know what I mean? Look, they're a joke. The Cowboys
Devin says that 13 minutes left in the fourth, they took all the starters out.
Yeah, it was a full quarter left. The Niners only had to play 3 quarters of football to drop 42 points on the Cowboys.
And Micah Parsons is today in the locker room saying we have a team that competes with the 49ers when it comes to a playoff
crack.
team.
They smoking crack over there. Like, listen, I live in Texas now. Dead silence. Dead silence. I normally see Cowboys fans all the time. They're nowhere to
more Texan fans now.
They're Texas fans now, right? They're Texans fans. Like it's crazy. Like even the Red River rivalry, right? They were quiet when they lost that game. Like it was, man. Dallas Cowboys are a joke, man. I'm not taking them serious. At all. I'm not taking them serious.
Tone, awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you coming aboard, brother.
Of course, man. I appreciate you always giving me the chance to pontificate. I appreciate that, man.
You bet, man. I enjoy it with you now, man. Thank you so much. That's our friend Tone. Hey, folks, do me a favor. Make sure you check out our good friends at Hooters. 7 locations in the Northeast area. All you have to do is find one of those locations. All there for you. All you have to do is go online. You could also use the app, HootersToGo.com. If you don't want to go into any one of the locations, the iconic Hooter girls will come out, give you the food, go back to your own castle, your own stadium, eat the food. Or if you want to go in and try one of the specials, like Tuesdays, buy 10 wings, 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, 1983, all you can eat. Great specials, happy hours. Kids eat for free on Saturdays, as we said. NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. When you go into any one of the locations, do me a favor. Tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.